So this indecisiveness because of lack of confidence is really hurting the average citizen.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Our Nevada Judges. This gentleman right here, who is Alan Lefebvre, and you are running for the district court judge in Department 14.
That's correct, 14.
Okay. Why?
Well, I furrowed in the landscape of the Eighth Judicial District Court my entire career, from start to finish. And the court has changed over the years. As our town has gotten more sophisticated, our courts have become more specialized. So when I first arrived here, we had 12 judges. Now we have 32, general jurisdiction, split, and civil. And they've become more, they come from backgrounds that are specialized. I come from a general practice background. And that's really lacking, a judge with that experience is lacking in this judicial district. Maria Gall is probably the exception. And I think I would like to lend my vast experience to help expedite cases, because it's the civil cases which lag behind so long, because so many of our judges do come from different backgrounds other than civil law. We have 5 current former public defenders. We've got a whole bunch of district attorneys, former district attorneys, with no civil law experience. Now they get thrown in and have civil dockets, and they're in essence learning on the job.
So may I interrupt you for just a moment? And if you'll explain to people like myself, what exactly does civil law cover? What types of cases would you be, hearing?
Civil cases involve business disputes, disputes between residents and homeowners, employment cases, wrongful termination cases, insurance claims, breach of contract between private entities. It's totally a private realm of our system. The criminal law system is between the state and an offender.
Right. So, okay. So it would be like if you and I had some kind of a beef and we would go to court, that would be a civil case.
That's correct.
Now, if I were to jump over the fence and beat the crap out of you, or you beat the crap out of me, that would be the district court. Is that right?
Right. That'd be the district court, but you may get to meet the district attorney and be in a criminal case, but you'd also be liable for damages for trespass to my property and assault and battery on me.
Right. Well, that's good to know. Then I'll make friends with my neighbor. No, I'm sorry. So you have quite an extended experience in the law here in Nevada, and you had mentioned that we have changed over the years. What do you think is the most significant changes that you've seen in our legal system here in Nevada?
Well, it really started in 2000 when we started admitting, the Supreme Court did, out-of-state lawyers to practice with either national firms who came in or to represent mega clients, or regional firms. And so that changed the complexion of our local lawyers a great deal. And it also changed the judiciary, because they previously had out-of-state lawyers who would become involved in cases, but then now they have large firms which are very powerful entities in our town now.
You hear them on the radio and the TV all the time.
Absolutely.
We've got 83,212 attorneys, come to us first. So if I'm hearing that correctly, you do not have to be licensed in the state of Nevada to practice law?
No, you do, but your firm can practice here automatically if you're admitted.
Okay.
It used to be that if you weren't from here, you had to be admitted every time.
Gotcha.
And go through a cumbersome process under what's called Supreme Court Rule 42. So it involved, as the town grew, many more lawyers who were not from here or have any connection to Las Vegas than came here. But my point more is that, you know, the town has become more sophisticated. Example is food. You know, people used to complain you couldn't get a decent sandwich in Las Vegas. And now the restaurants are so sophisticated, none of us locals can afford to eat there.
Yeah.
And so we have the same thing in our courthouse with judges who are also more sophisticated in criminal law, for instance. We've got 5 public defenders, a whole bunch of DAs, but the civil side of the roster is somewhat neglected. We have
Gotcha.
some fine civil judges, a lot of old school people like Judge Mark Denton, who had, you know, vast amount of civil experience, but that's lacking, and that's a product of our sophistication. So what I would like to do in seeking an election is to restore that, to elevate the practice. You know, when somebody doesn't know, isn't totally familiar with something, it always takes them longer to do something.
Of course.
And so when a judge, a DA, or a public defender who's on the bench has never seen a mechanics lien case, a case about the solar contractor who was on your roof and did damage, they're going to not be sure-footed in how they move. They're going to be very reluctant. Somebody who's more, and I claim this ability, somebody who's more adept at the civil law can get to the gist of the case much more quickly and move it along. Our courts are notoriously slow on the civil side. It takes way too long to get to trial. And it's my contention that the reason for that is the judges are not as familiar with civil law. They're learning on the job as they should be. So the court system is slowed down. It's my estimation that of every legal bill that I sent ever because of a case in the Eighth Judicial District Court, that at least 2/5 of it was the result of the judge's inability to get to the quick of the matter soon enough so that the parties didn't come back and have more and more appearances, or the ultimate cop-out, no, I'm not going to decide it, go do some more depositions. Well, every deposition now is like $3,500.
Yeah.
Maybe court reporters' fees included. So this indecisiveness because of lack of confidence is really hurting the average citizen. Let me just add, criminal cases are very, very important. I'm not saying they're not, but the average law-abiding citizen in Clark County is going to be affected much more by the civil system.
Of course. It touches our everyday life.
Right. And so, you know, if they're responsible, law-abiding people, all they're going to do is see the civil courts. They may not want to, and it's going to be a very bitter experience.
Yeah.
So I would like to lend my experience. I worked in that court system my entire career, and I would like to elevate it.
So as a voter, when I go into the ballot box and I see this list of judges that I have to vote for, how do I know? Where can I go to find out whether or not this individual is truly suited for the position that they're running for? I mean, I know that that's probably typical for all candidates, but I mean, especially the judges. If how do I know that? How can I find out whether or not you're qualified to do the job that you're trying to get elected to?
Well,
I don't mean you personally. I mean,
there's a judicial questionnaire that the legislature required.
right?
And when you look at the sample ballot, it'll have a tab there to take you to the background of the judge.
Okay.
But it really just scratches the surface. It doesn't really give you a full picture. You can go to various websites, my own, which I hope you'll let me give at the end of
Absolutely, yes.
At the end of this, you have to go do an awful lot of work to find out judges. Unfortunately, so many organizations send out endorsements, and so a lot of people just follow what's on the endorsement card. But you really have to really go beyond that. I think you have to go and dig into background. As you say, there's a huge drop off between the first race that people vote in and then the judicial races
Right.
at the bottom as
Well, and
non-partisan.
that's one of the reasons that we do this show is because I had learned a few years back that there was a huge percentage of people who go into the ballot box and don't vote all the way down ballot. It's
Right.
too confusing for them, or they're lazy, or whatever. And these are the people, our school board, our judges, the chief of police, all of this. They are the people that affect our daily lives more than any of the federal offices. So it should be more important to us. The building department, the planning department, all of these people that we vote for. So why should people vote for you for this position?
Well, because of my vast experience and the dimension that I bring, that I was not solely a criminal law lawyer, and that I came from the top of my practice. I'm an AV rated lawyer that doesn't mean anything except to lawyers. Uh, I'm a civic minded person. I was president of the State Bar of Nevada.
Okay.
In the 90s, I served on the Commission on Judicial Discipline. I acted for 9 years, and I acted as its hearing officer when we heard those complaints. So I've seen the worst of judges, and judges are terrible. They're big crybabies if they're ever called to account. And so I've seen that, and I've seen judicial behavior that I wouldn't want to emulate.
Well, if you've lived in this town any time at all, we've had some nightmare judges that you wonder how the hell did they ever get in there? Isn't somebody taking a look at their qualifications? But anyway, that's
My first job in Clark County was to be a judicial law clerk in
Okay.
this very court in Department 10 and Eighth Judicial District Court when they had 12 departments. And so I enjoyed the court. There we had a split civil and criminal calendar. Had a lot of huge cases. Had a case that lasted 6 months involving the MGM Grand Hotel before the fire.
right.
Construction failure about the exterior skin of the hotel, where the product had failed. And saw my fair share of criminal cases. Some of it was kind of shocking to me. I'd never seen a bunch of in custody people hauled in unceremoniously to court. Watched sentencing, advised my judge on sentencing. Certainly understood the gravity of that part of the job deeply.
Yeah.
So,
So what is most fulfilling for you about working in the law area?
well, this is a stingy reason. It's very intellectually stimulating. I'm not a guy who's going to be, I'm not a real active person. I find the law fascinating.
More cerebral.
Well, I'm more cerebral, I think. I shouldn't be as cerebral as I am. That's kind of bad. But Nevada law is actually very interesting. There are a lot of gaps to be filled in, although fewer now than long ago. And so the law that the legislature gives us, which we have to follow, there are gaps when the judge has to fill that in.
Right.
And we've had a growing body of case law, and our case law is very interesting. It leaves questions open, and you have to surmise how our Supreme Court sometimes would rule on a particular matter. So,
Well, you're affecting people's lives. The decisions that you make from the bench has both positive and negative effects on people.
absolutely.
What is the most frustrating thing for you about working in law?
Well, the toughest part is that somebody wins and somebody loses. And so that leads us into the other aspect of the job, which is to conduct settlement conferences. What's really tragic is to see a small business or, sole proprietorship in front of you, and if you decide the case straight down the middle, either with the help of a jury or not, totally as a bench trial, somebody's going to be financially hurt.
Yeah.
So the bus stop to all of that, where parties can get off, for settlement conferences. And I'm very knowledgeable in civil law in all aspects, and I could help ameliorate the devastation that a judgment will bring. Courts speak through judgments, and when a judgment comes down, there's no arguing with it. So one minute you don't have a judgment, the next you do. People are litigants in a case are there before the court because somebody made a mistake. And we don't know who that is initially, but usually I could figure that out pretty quick. So it's either one of the lawyers, the client, or the lawyer on this side, or the client here. And if they do roll the dice and end up with a disastrous result, they can be destroyed by it financially. When I would find a case like that, and I thought there were some innocent people there, they could be arrogant and foolish, but they shouldn't be financially destroyed or have the burden of further litigation. I would encourage settlement conferences, and I would be happy from other judges to hear settlement conferences in areas that I believe that I emphasize in my private practice and loosely had expertise.
Okay. I have one last question before I turn you loose and let everybody know why they should vote for you and how they can get a hold of you. And you don't have to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Today, the average person's faith in our legal system is probably at an all-time low. Are you finding that that's true, or is it something that it's just a perception that we're not really seeing what's really going on?
No, well, the problem is perception becomes reality. And as Americans, we're used to living under myths. And so, for instance, our federal judiciary carries on under a myth because our federal judges are so good with life tenure about elevating themselves above the fray. And so, for instance, the perception is that you get better justice in federal court. We used to have a myth that the Supreme Court was non-political.
Yeah.
And that was created about the time, well, it was in academia, it was created out of whole cloth around the time of the Warren Court. And so those courts, though, in those days worked very hard to elevate themselves above politics. And now, as our politics have become more crass and vulgar, people in their own minds and through their own ideological bent come to view the courts, especially the Supreme Court, as an ideological turnoff for two sides. Now, a lot of people will say it's political parties. No, it's ideology. But that used to be held up to a different standard, and we had the myth. Earl Warren, for instance, in Ford versus Brown, because he wanted people to realize the court was above politics, worked very hard to get a 9-0 decision. Now, when we see these drastic splits on both sides, which are political, 5-4, 6-3, etc., people have to wonder how can these judges decide these things and be so split? I mean, there must be some merit to the other side.
Right.
So that's destroyed our faith.
We talked before the show about Walter Cronkite, and that's an era that's past. So anyway, we're kind of running out of time. So why don't you look into the camera there, give us your spiel, and tell us why we should vote for you, Mr. Lefebvre.
My name's Alan Lefevre. I'm running for Department 14 of the Eighth Judicial District Court. I seek your vote because I would like to lend my years of experience in this court, the Eighth Judicial District Court, to elevate its practice, because although we have many fine judges, we don't have judges that have the experience that judges from past times did. There was probably a golden moment in the 1998, 1995 to 2005 period when we still had judges before the town got so big and complicated who had experience in vast areas of the civil law. The civil law is what is going to be affecting you the most unless you're a victim of a crime. But in most instances, if you are a law-abiding citizen, you are going to come in contact most likely with our civil court system. And it's badly in need of repair, and I think I can restore that. My website is Alan, A-L-A-N, for F-O-R, Department, just abbreviated DEP, 14judge.com. My phone number is 702-672-0572, and I can be contacted at ajl for 14@gmail. I invite any of your inquiries. I hope to serve as your judge. And let me address one thing that's very important, and that is I may look old, but my parents both lived into their 90s. I come from long-lived people. Don't worry, I wouldn't, if you elect me, I'm not threatening to serve until I'm 90. But I have many years of good service left in me. This community has been very good to me. This court system is the one that I've worked in my entire life and in professional life and earned my living. And I would like to give back to this court and give the citizens a better choice among their judges and the resolution of their cases in the best way possible. Thank you.